Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m. and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com and now on Instagram and Facebook, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsor for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. Well, I promised the entire month of May we're going to be featuring the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is a featured branch in the Armed Service Parade, and we left last week's show with Rudy Lopez, Public Affairs at the Coast Guard Auxiliary, so he's back with us. Thanks for joining me back again on this show, Rudy.
Hey, I appreciate you asking me back. Thank you.
Well, you know, the entire month of May, I'm dedicating to try to promote and bring attention to the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary as well. We're going to have booths at the exhibit area in the Armed Service Parade coming up the May 19th through the 21st, and also at Fleet Week at the Battleship Iowa in San Pedro. And I got an incredible lineup of guests coming up in May. I'm going to have some Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary as well. They're going to come on, and we have even the captain of the base. So it's going to be a really exciting month of May.
It surely is. It's a precursor because it recognizes we have a National Safe Boating Week that's honored across the country. So perfect timing for the month and having all those dignitaries on your show.
Explain the National Safe Boating Week. Explain that.
Yeah, well, it was a decree that was put back some time ago when we started to recognize that boaters needed some education offered to them to be safe on the waters. And the National Safe Boating Week is a week that's honoring that, and we concentrate, especially here in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, in providing that education to the public so they can be better aware on the waters and be safer. When they go out and they have all these guests on their boat and they want to make sure that they are well prepared to handle any situation, and that's kind of our goal, to save lives. Let's
talk again. We left last week's show, and I only gave you a couple minutes. Let's talk again what the Coast Guard Auxiliary does and how it supports the active duty Coast Guard.
Oh, I'd love to. The Coast Guard Auxiliary basically is a civilian volunteer force that's uniformed. And what they do is, they provide a supplementary service to the active duty Coast Guard. What I mean by that is that there's a lot of things that we can do that takes away the burden from the active duty side so they can concentrate more on their purpose, and it's basically to protect our coastlines and do what they do. So our volunteers, they come in and they get trained on how to handle things such as simple things in office work and all the way up to being on boat vessels and providing search and rescue assists. We train with the active duty side to get them better prepared for any scenario they encounter. And everything in between, we do the vessel exams where we go out and inspect or basically do a safety check on privately owned vessels to make sure that they are in compliance and they can be taught things that they need to improve on to just make their boaters safe. So really, again, the key word is volunteer, and we have a lot of people that step up to the plate to take on these duties.
It is exciting. One of the things that I love about it is the history. Is there truth to the rumor that it started out, it was called the Hooligan Navy back in the beginning of World War II? Any truth to that?
Yeah, actually, that's true. There's a lot of history that's connected to that, and it's morphed several times since then. It really became something that was necessary because of the issues that boaters way back then were encountering. A lot of it had to do with people were bringing in illegal, I'll use the word contraband, but back then it made relations to products that weren't being taxed and things. So we had a force of vessels that were out there in support of, and then it just kind of morphed in from that. So now that we have a branch of service that's recognized in the country with the Coast Guard, the auxiliary, again, volunteer, they come up and they really assist at a time where service above self is very important to a lot of people, including myself and you too, Captain Rick, because you're an auxiliary yourself. We're seeing that a lot of people are being able to help our active duty side in completing their mission.
Yeah, it really is exciting. It's got a glorious history. and a lot of hours, and a lot of people volunteer. It really is wonderful. And is the motto the same as the Coast Guard, Semper Paratus? Is that the auxiliarist as well?
Yes, it is. And this year they have a theme every year, basically, depending on the Coast Guard. And this year it's Team Coast Guard. It really exemplifies that everybody works together for the same common purpose. And again, it comes back to saving lives. So it's a lot of history, and Semper Paratus is certainly a motto that we live by. It means always ready, and that's what we go by.
Well, it's been fantastic having you back on the show. Before I let you go, let's talk again about the Coast Guard Auxiliary booth at the Armed Service Parade and at Fleet Week. Give us a little idea about that.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite your listening public and all of their friends. May 19th through the 21st, the City of Torrance has the Armed Forces Day weekend. It's a celebration where they have a display from all the branches of service, basically static booths, so you can come and visit and talk. And then they have a parade that we'll be participating with, too. And as you stated earlier, the Coast Guard branch of service is the honored guest military branch this year. So it's a big deal for all of us, and we have a lot of special people coming to participate in that. But we ask you to come down and visit us on that because we will have a lot of information about boating safety. We have some giveaways and things of that nature. And again, it's the precursor to the National Safe Boating Week, which is recognized May 20th through the 26th. And immediately after that, we have Fleet Week, and of course that's in San Pedro from May 26th to the 29th. And it's almost a carbon copy kind of an event at Fleet Week where we will, again, have a booth out there. We invite people to come by, and we'll have actually a special guest with Coasty, our little robot that comes in to meet all the kids. And it's a great, great time. It's a great afternoon to spend some time with all of us, and we invite everybody to come by.
Really exciting. Thanks so much, Rudy Lopez from the Coast Guard Auxiliary Public Affairs. Thanks so much for joining me and my guest on the Boating Hour.
Thank you, Cap Rick. Appreciate that much.
That was really exciting to hear from Public Affairs, Rudy Lopez. We'll talk a lot more about the Coast Guard Auxiliary, but we're here today on base at Coast Guard in Long Beach. We have a wonderful guest, BM1 Shield. Thanks for joining Captain Rick on the Boating Hour.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
What does BM1 stand for?
Bosun Mate First Class.
What is your job? I don't know what a bosun does.
So a bosun's mate in the Coast Guard is essentially a boat driver. We are the coxswains of small boats, some cutters. You can carry an OOD letter, a DWO letter, which is a deck watch officer, on some of the ships, all the cutters. So
that's exciting. So you drive the boat?
I do.
That is really exciting. Can I jump on the boat with you when we're done with this interview and go around the harbor?
We could always set something up.
Let's talk about you a little bit. You're married, you're a youngster, you're in the Coast Guard. What prompted you and your husband to join the Coast Guard?
So my husband and I are both in the Coast Guard. He is a MKC, a machinery technician, chief petty officer. So he can't be here today. He's currently underway with one of the ships. But, we've been in the Coast Guard for a long time. We've got 3 kids who are a handful, and we try to make sure that everybody is entertained and that our jobs are obviously done, and we're, we just keep everything
That's
going.
Exciting. So a whole Coast Guard family.
Yeah.
Do you live close to base?
We live in Long Beach.
Oh, you live in Long Beach?
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. Did you know you were going to be in the Coast Guard when you were going through high school and when you started college? I mean, tell me what prompted you to join and get into as an active duty member?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I joined right out of high school about a month after I graduated. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life when I was in school. And I wasn't ready to take out a bunch of student loans and not know what I wanted to do. So I decided to do some research on the different services, and I figured out that the Coast Guard was going to be the best fit for me, and I couldn't be more happy with my decision.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Tell us some of the challenges that you're going through. What have you faced being in the Coast Guard, and especially, as a team and having a whole family, and you've got 3 kids, my goodness. So tell me some of the challenges and some of the exciting things about serving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our biggest challenge day to day is just there's not enough time in a day. And we have to make up for it. We make sure that we have enough time professionally, personally, family time, and making sure that everything gets done. and it can be challenging, but it's doable, and it makes us stronger as a family. It makes us more resilient, and in turn, we couldn't ask for a better family life.
Well, you're here to kick off an entire month of May. May Melee. We're going to be covering the Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Coast Guard Active Duty, and of course the Armed Service Parade. So you will be at the Armed Service Parade in Torrance, right?
Yes, sir, I will.
That's excellent. So the Armed Service Parade is May 19th, 20th, and 21st. Kicks off with a 5K run on Saturday morning, and then, of course, the parade. Tell us a little bit about the Armed Service Parade. Do you know what assets and what's going to happen with the Coast Guard at the parade?
Absolutely. So we have a few boats that will be in the parade along with the exhibits. We will have a 29-foot response boat that's coming from the MIST, LALB. We also have the ANTS TANB, which is the Aids to Navigation team. And we will have the PSU, which is on base, and they will have a boat there as well, along with a ton of other coasties that will march and be a part of the parade and the 5K.
Well, the Armed Service Parade is the oldest, longest-running, one of the most prestigious parades in the country. The last time we had it was 2019, and the Navy was the honored branch. This year, of course, is the Coast Guard, so it'll be really exciting. It's kicking off on Friday, 3 days of exhibits. We'll have a lot of exciting stuff going on there, and of course, Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary will have booths at the parade. So it's kicking off on Friday, and Alec Milstein, who is the division commander of the Auxiliary, and he'll be singing the national anthem to kick off on Friday. So that will be really exciting. So the Coast Guard Auxiliary will have booths, and of course, you know if there's going to be recruiters at the exhibit area with the Coast Guard?
There definitely will be. Yeah, the recruiters are going to have a huge stance at the parade and at the exhibit site.
I was there in 2019. It was really exciting. At the end of the parade, the Navy Commandant was one of the admirals was the featured honorary person, and she swore in the cadets. So that was really exciting to see him swear in the cadets. Do you guys have anything? Does the Coast Guard have any plans to do the same? You know?
Yes, they will definitely have people in the parade to do the oath, and then our Grand Marshal, who is Rear Admiral List, she will be there to swear the recruits and the new soldiers in. Let's
talk about the celebrity, the honorary celebrity that's going to be featured at the Armed Service Parade for the weekend. And I understand you're the one that got the honorary celebrity.
Yes, sir. We were able to get Beau Bridges, who is a prior coastie. He served in the Coast Guard Reserves for just over 8 years, a long time ago, but he had a great amount of service, and his brother was also in, Jeff Bridges, as well as their dad, Lloyd Bridges. They were all in the Coast Guard for a decent amount of time, and we're super happy and gracious that he was able to take the time to come and be a part of the parade and be our honorary celebrity Grand Marshal.
Who's going to be the Grand Marshal?
Our Grand Marshal is Rear Admiral List.
Okay, that's wonderful. And what are do you know the role of the marshals and Grand Marshals? What are they there to do besides make it exciting for everybody to come and watch? Or they're the featured people at the different events, and of course there's going to be some besides the parade. We're going to have some dinners. Tell me about what you think is going to go on with the dinners and the exciting exhibits.
Yeah, so they will do the introductions. They'll all give a little bit of a speech at the banquet that the Torrance City hosts on Saturday, as well as the concert on Friday and the mixer on Friday. They'll introduce different people, and they're the main part of the parade, in charge of the parade, if you will.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Let's go back to you. Tell me some of the great rewards that you're in serving in the Coast Guard, and let's talk a little bit about your experience, and maybe let's go into some of the biggest misconceptions people have about serving in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, so the Coast Guard's been such a great experience. I wouldn't have changed anything in my career. I've worked with so many amazing people. I've gotten to see so many different places. And some of the biggest challenges can be, the professional development as well as personal development. But ensuring that you are setting your own standards and making sure that you're living up to your own expectations is some of the biggest things that you can do.
Do you get a lot of support from your family? Did you come from a military family?
No, actually. My parents were not in the service or anything. My grandpa served in World War II many, many moons ago. But my brother is in the Air Force, and he actually joined after I joined the Coast Guard. So, I have a lot of support from my family, definitely. But they're all in upstate New York, so they're a little far from California. But they're extremely supportive of me and my family and my husband with everything that we do.
So your husband right now is deployed. He's on the Terrell Horn. Is that correct?
He is, yes.
So Terrell Horn was in Marina del Rey on the halibut. I actually knew him. My introduction to the Coast Guard Auxiliary he was the first tour I had of the halibut. So I actually knew him, and I was there when they dedicated the ship. So your husband's on that ship. Let's talk about that ship that your husband's on that was dedicated to Terrell Horn.
Sure.
So tell me, what kind of class? Explain the different classes. Now, the halibut and the bluefin are the smaller boats. So he's on one of the larger ones. Explain the difference and what are the duties? What do they do and how far do they go?
Sure. So I'm currently attached to Sector LA, but before about a year ago when I had my daughter, I used to be on the halibut. So I was on the halibut for about a year and a half before I had my most recent child. So the halibut is an 87-foot patrol boat, and there's a crew of about 12 people on there. They go out for a few days at a time and conduct law enforcement, fisheries, tons and tons of different events and things like that throughout the Southern California AOR specifically. So the next cutters, there's the fast response cutters, which is the FRCs, which is like the Terrell Horn. And they can go out for a few weeks at a time, and they go out to do law enforcement, search and rescue, and those types of missions as well. So along with they just get a little bit bigger with each classification, and each of them, as they go up, they can go out for longer periods of time.
What was the longest you were out at sea?
I was stationed on Coast Guard Cutter James, which is out of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm actually a plank owner on that ship. When it was commissioned in Boston in August of 2015, we would go out for a few months at a time, and that is a Winslow class, about 420 feet.
What is a plank owner?
That's the original crew. So you're the first crew to be on that boat and to commission the boat.
Oh, that must be exciting. So you've served in a couple different areas, not just here.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. What did you like the best? What was the most exciting and what was the hardest?
Everywhere has its challenges. Southern California has been beautiful, and we have enjoyed our time in California. But we're excited to get back to the East Coast. We're definitely East Coast sailors, so we're leaving this summer and heading to Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Oh, you and your husband both? You're leaving us here in Long Beach?
We are, yeah.
Okay. Well, are you planning a career? Are you a career person, or how long are you going to be in the Coast Guard?
I am, yeah. I've been in for about 15 years now, and my husband's been in for about 18 years. So we're in it to win it.
Oh, okay. So you're already a career people.
Yep.
Because I'm thinking if you retire, all the sailors that race are going to want you. That's one of the tough ones. So what are your plans of being here after the parade? What's your function in the parade? Are you going to be marching in the parade? Are you going to be driving any of the boats that are being towed?
I'll most likely be marching in the parade. My husband and myself, maybe with our family, we're definitely all going to participate in the 5K. Us, the whole gang, we're all going to be there.
Okay.
So,
how old are your kids?
My oldest is 10. I have a 4-year-old. And then the baby is about 10 months.
Okay, the 5K for Freedom in the morning. I will be taking photographs at the 5K. That's how I got out of running the 5K. So I'm going to be photographing for the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Coast Guard. So I'll definitely see you there And I'm definitely going to be excited to take pictures of your family. You look so young. I thought you were brand new in the Coast Guard.
Well, thank you.
You've already been in the Coast Guard for quite a long time. You're a career person. So that it really is wonderful to have a dedication, to the Coast Guard and have a career. And really, it's amazing. So what can you say to anybody that's thinking of the Coast Guard, especially families, people with significant others? If they asked you about being in the Coast Guard, what would you tell them?
It can be the most rewarding experience that you make it. You're able to see so many different things, be around so many different people, and have your family experience it as well. You're not just doing it by yourself. You're experiencing everything together.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the Armed Service Parade, but the following week, Memorial Day, is Fleet Week at the Battleship Iowa, and I know the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary both have booths there. Are you planning on being there? Do you know about the Coast Guard booth at the Battleship Iowa Memorial Day weekend?
I do know about it. I will probably go with my family, and we'll experience the whole thing and everything. We were able to go last year, and it was a great experience. It was really fun.
I actually, when you talk about being a plank owner, I bought a clock last year at the Battleship Iowa that was made out of one of the planks. So I am a owner of the clock that was made out of the wood of the planks. So I guess I'm an owner of the Battleship Iowa plank.
That's awesome.
I'm a plank owner as well. That really is exciting. Well, this has been wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You're kicking off an entire month of May promoting the Armed Service Parade. The featured branch is the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard will be at the Armed Service Parade. And after a 3-year hiatus of not having the oldest, longest running, and one of the most prestigious parades in the country dedicated to all the armed services. So it's wonderful having you on the show. I really want to thank you. I want to tell your husband that I wish him good sailing and fair winds, and I hope to have him on the show one day. And I'd like to invite you back as well when your husband comes back to come on the show to wrap up. I have a lot more questions for you, but I do want to thank you for coming out.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here.
And it's really exciting to be here on base. It's such a wonderful place. There's a lot of construction going on. Or are they redoing your docks? Do you have bigger ships coming in?
We do. Yeah, we have 2 of the newest classes of cutters are going to be coming to the LA area. So they're in making preparations for that. The Argus and the Chase are both in production at one of the shipyards currently.
Bigger than the Terrell Horn class?
They are much bigger, yes. They are about 400 feet. They're called the OPCs, or Offshore Patrol Cutters.
Oh, wow. How far do they go?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Wow.
They're brand new, so.
They're brand new. Well, you definitely have to give me a ride on one of those boats. I would love to do that. Do you ever go up in the helicopter? Do you train with any of the helo operations?
Yeah, in the small boat community and the cutters, we get to train with the helicopters quite often. In the different stations that I've been to, I've been able to see the AOR from the air and go out on the AOR familiarization with the helicopters, which is a really cool experience.
We had Rudy Lopez earlier in the show, and he's public affairs. But Lori Barfield's going to be on the show from the Auxiliary, and she's training to assist the Coast Guard when they go out for rescue. So we're going to talk a lot more about the helos. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we have such wonderful guests. We're so fortunate. So let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. We're going to be talking about the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary for the entire month of May, featuring the Armed Service Parade in Torrance, May 19th, 20th, and 21st. So you're going to have lots of exhibits, the 5K in the morning. So get out there, and there'll be a wonderful parade. It's been going on. This is the 61st. It's been going on 61 years. You know, I actually marched in that parade when I was a Boy Scout, and that was ages ago. I'm not quite as old as Bo Bridges, but I marched when I was a Boy Scout, and my father and I went to that parade several years in a row, so it really is exciting. So I want to thank our sponsor for our show today, Livia One Probiotics. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. Thanks for being with us today, and please be sure to listen to us every Saturday at 4 p.m. the entire month of May. We're going to be talking about the Armed Service Parade, the Fleet Week at the Battleship Iowa, the following week, Memorial Day weekend. So thanks for listening to us. Keep your emails coming. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all, and be sure to look at us on Instagram and YouTube.
Learning to swim is a magical time in a child's life. The excitement of the water, playing with friends, making memories on vacations that will last a lifetime. British Swim School has locations throughout the U.S. where we specialize in teaching anyone to swim, from babies to adults, beginners to those who need a refresher pre-summer. British Swim School's instructors make learning to swim fun with gentle teaching methods. Sign up your kids for swim lessons at BritishSwimSchool.com.